Here with us is the head of AIFC Islamic Finance Department of Astana International Financial Center, Alibek Mombayev. So he kindly accepted our invitation to participate in our International Economics Olympiad and deliver his presentation about Islamic finance. So Alibek, welcome. Stage is yours, and I will be assisting you in demonstrating your presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate that you invited me, and it's my really honor. And thank you for your organization, my colleagues from Business Continuing Professional Development, especially to you, Alisher. And today we will talk about Islamic finance itself. And first of all, I would like to say that this industry is a really interesting thing, and it's not new. And as a representative of this unit of the Astana International Financial Center, I will discuss about the main things of Islamic finance, the chronology, the key achievements, and the further development. So I hope everybody hears me well and understands what I am saying. So let's start. We can move to the next slide. So here's it starts the timeline of development of Islamic finance in AIFC. But before that, I would like to explain to you the few things about Islamic finance. So according to various estimates, this segment currently has more than $2.5 trillion in the world and is expected to reach 3.8 trillion by 2023. So, which is 1% of the total assets of the world's financial markets. Islamic banking represents the largest segment, estimated at 1.3 trillion, or 70% of total Islamic financial assets. The Islamic insurance industry, which is named the takaful in Islamic finance industry, and the capital markets also showed significant growth. So Kazakhstan plans to develop the Islamic finance industry in order to create alternative sources of financing for state and municipal projects, as well as private ones. For this, the AIFC has established a special regulatory regime that complies with the best international practices and standards. The Islamic financial industry includes a number of members, including Islamic banks, asset management companies, investment funds, takaful and re-takaful companies, and other Islamic financial institutions, as well as leading international Islamic financial institutions. So before that timeline chronology, I would like to say about the key actions what Kazakhstan took before 2015. So, for example, at 2010, we have established or registered, not the AIFC, Kazakhstan itself. So we're talking about overall. Al-Hilal Islamic Bank, it's the first Islamic bank in Kazakhstan and the CIS countries, which was established in 2010 by agreement of the governments of the Republic of Kazakhstan and the UAE, United Arab Emirates, in order to provide modern banking products and services in accordance with the rules and principles of Sharia. So then at 2012, yes, the Development Bank of Kazakhstan has successfully, before the previous slide, please. So we were still staying at the first slide. So this bank, Development Bank of Kazakhstan, has successfully placed the first issue of Islamic bonds, Sukuk al-Murabaha. Furthermore, I will explain about that. So it's just like key actions what we did. In the amount of 40 million Malaysian ringgit, so it's approximately $76 million, with an annual premium of 5.5% and a 5-year maturity. So who is understanding in the capital markets, I think they'll get it. At the same time, 62% of the issue was distributed among Malaysian investors and 38 in the Kazakhstan market. So this bank, this organization, issued first sukuk. So it's the key action that happened here in our territory, that the Islamic capital market started developing or having among our business community. So the next step at 2013. So this was joint stock company named Kazakhstan Ijara Company. Is the first leasing company in Kazakhstan operating under the Sharia principles. So the Sharia principles, Sharia itself, it means the rules in Islam. So it's nothing about the religion. It's all about the industry itself, the financial. So there was like the list of rules, the list of action, like it's prohibited or allowed. It named Sharia. I hope everybody is clear. So this joint stock company, Kazakhstan, is the first leasing company in Kazakhstan operating under the Sharia principles. The company was founded in 2013 as a partnership between the Islamic Corporation for Private Sector Development, ICD, and a group of international and local investors. So the issued authorized capital of the company is $40 million. The allocated capital is 28. And next things it was at 2016. So it's okay. So before that, we can start about the presentation slides. So 2015, the constitutional statute of the Republic of Kazakhstan on the establishment of the Astana International Financial Center, where the Islamic finance is one of the key pillars of AIFC. So the government of Kazakhstan and the first president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, decided to move forward in financial industry and decided to create the Astana International Financial Center. So, and one of these key players was Islamic finance, because everybody understands how important this segment. So after that, after these things, at 2016, there's some issues. Next one was the Zaman Bank. Zaman Bank is the second Islamic bank who was transferring. So it's already, the bank has been on the market for 28 years. And the bank shareholders include the Islamic Corporation for the Development of the Private Sector, as I told before, ICD company, which is a multilateral organization and a member of the Islamic Development Bank group. So the bank received a permit from the National Bank of the Republic of Kazakhstan for voluntary reorganization of the bank in the form of conversion into an Islamic bank. So at 2017, the Zaman Bank received a license to conduct banking and other operations of an Islamic bank and was renamed to Islamic Bank Zaman Bank joint stock company. In 2017, the bank became a full member of the Bursa Malaysia Commodity Exchange. It's like as a central bank of Malaysia, which opens up new horizons for the development of Murabaha banking products, which we'll talk about later. So if we move forward at 2018, so it was the year when the AIFC was established officially and opened it. So at 2018, AIFC organized a certification program on Islamic finance in collaboration with the Bahrain Institute of Banking and Finance and the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investments. Then we created the AIFC Exam Center in AIFC. So AIFC is the accounting and auditing organization for Islamic financial institutions. Is a non-profit organization based in Bahrain that was formed to uphold and promote Sharia law for Islamic financial institutions, participants, and the entire industry. Then AIFC becomes a member of the General Council for Islamic Banks and Institutions, CBAFI. So what I'm talking about now is like the connection and the links with the prestigious companies and institutions financial worldwide. So one of them is the CBAFI, which we're talking now. So firstly, I will talk about the Islamic finance itself, and then at the end we will be having the question and answer session, and I'll answer for you all questions. Okay. CBAFI is an international non-profit organization founded in 2001 by the Islamic Development Bank, IDB, and a number of leading Islamic financial institutions. CBAFI is part of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIS, with over 130 members from over 34 jurisdictions around the world. CBAFI is recognized as a pivotal in the international architecture of Islamic finance. Then, at 2018, the same year, the AIFC Advisory Council in Islamic Finance was established. So this council, it means the group of people, of course, they consist of leading experts in Islamic finance internationally. To having like advisory council, it's in the name of it itself what they're doing. So they're collecting like the whole information what happened like into the some period of times, and then they are like making the research and giving the advice on that. And there was like approximately 5 or 6 of them who is like really who is into it in Islamic finance and understanding that these people is really honorable in worldwide community in Islamic finance especially. So then at 2019, Center of Islamic Finance in cooperation with Al-Farabi Kaznu is University, AIFC, and Hamad bin Khalifa Qatar University was established. So it's like they work hard and like they achieved this collaboration and cooperation with these 2 universities. And then the AIFC Central Sharia Advisory Board was established. Sharia Advisory Board, it means not as the previous one advisory at all, but especially the Sharia Advisory Board. So this kind of boards you need it when there is in need of understanding what kind of organizations have allowed to do business in Islamic finance. So these guys in Central Sharia Advisory Board will tell you exactly, do you allow to do that, or is it fits the rules of the Islamic finance or not? And then INSIF appoints AIFC as an INSIF collaborative partner. Is our dear friends from Malaysia. INSIF is the International Center for Education in Islamic Finance. Was established by the Bank Negara Malaysia in 2005. As I told you before, Bank Negara Malaysia is a central bank of the Malaysian. So it's created to develop human capital for the global Islamic finance industry. Commonly known as INSIF, Global University of Islamic Finance. It is the only university in the world dedicated to Islamic finance. We can move to the next slide, please. So the key achievements in 2020. Nowadays in AIFC have more than 30 companies providing services in the field of Islamic finance are registered in the AIFC. So the companies from countries such as Malaysia, the United Kingdom, the USA, Bahrain, and Kazakhstan, and are offering their services to the retail and corporate customers. And there is actually more companies, like not only these countries, there is also the Switzerland, Egypt, and in this list. Next one, after working hard with our Qatar government and proceeding like few official meetings and visits, the Islamic Bank Al Rayyan has received a certificate of registration with the AIFC in February 2020. The bank intends to become the first full-fledged digital bank at the AIFC, focusing its activities on the development of Islamic banking products and investments using advanced fintech products. So This bank, Al Rayan in Qatar, it's one of the key players in the financial industry. So the next one, AIX, Astana International Exchange, included sukuk issued by the Qatar International Islamic Bank in the official list. The offering has been initially made on London Stock Exchange in the amount of $500 million. So it was the cross listing between the LCE and AIX. Next one, please. So here is the AIFC Islamic Finance and Business Hub progress. This is the name of the department which I am working with. And here's the actions that we're doing and the sphere where we're working on. So as you can see, there is like divided to the like balloons. So there is the AIFC Advisory Council on Islamic Finance, which was created here, I told you before, the Center Sharia Advisory Board, then the ISDB Governor Office for Kazakhstan. So it means the ISDB itself, it's the like international organization, Islamic Development Bank, as the Asian Development Bank or European. So there's also the Islamic Development Bank, and this is the huge organization in Islamic finance industry. So where they're working closely with the government side or whatever the country is, usually they're making their own offices. They're as kind of representative, but they're doing all this stuff in local territory. So this bank registered here, got the licenses, so they're as a member, Kazakhstan as a member in this organization. And our company, and especially our governor, is the ISDB Governor Office for Kazakhstan at the same time. So we're working under the Islamic Finance and Business Hub for the financial center. At the same time, we are as a governor office for the ISDB. And then we have the memberships in IFSB, IOFI, and CBAFI. Before I was explaining about the IOFI and CBAFI, and here is one more organization. It's named IFSB. It's an Islamic Financial Service Board. Is an international standard-setting organization that promotes and enhances the reliability and stability of the Islamic financial services industry by issuing global prudential standards and guidelines for the industry, broadly defined as banking, capital markets, and insurance industries. So the IFSB also
Sorry, guys, there has been a technical problem. So we will wait for the speaker to join us again. Just a couple of minutes, please. By the way, so far, if you have any questions, so you can write your questions on a chat. So I see Emil's has already wrote his own question. So, and I will ask the speaker to come to your questions later and answer them. Hey, Alibek, your
I'm so sorry. It's some technical issues, as always happens at these times when we really needed to stay connected. Sorry for that. I hope I'm not wasting your time. Please, sorry me. Now it's okay, right?
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah,
so
please continue. We will move faster, and I will try to finish so we can have time. Please go back to the slide.
Can you see it?
Not yet. It's still loading. I just need to open the presentation, right?
Okay, just a second. So
yeah,
mine is open. You see it, right, Alibek?
It's still on the first page. It's not showing that it already.
How about now? No, just a minute, please. Just a second.
Sorry, dear participants and organizers, still having this kind of trouble. I hope it's not the first time. So everybody clear and following me up, just like you can say yes, and we'll continue now.
So Alibek, this is, so you can see it, right?
Yeah, you can like, yeah, so we can move it. Yeah, nice. Yeah, it was here. Okay, now it's how to close these kind of things. Okay. You hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Alibek. So you can continue if it's the correct page.
Yeah, we're here. So we was talking about the IFSB, the organization. So Islamic Finance Service Board, I told you before, is like the standard setting organization. So the IFSB also conducts research and coordinates initiatives and on industry-related issues, and organizes roundtables, seminars, and conferences for regulators and industry stakeholders. And our representative of this department has joined the technical committee of this organization. So as I mentioned before, they are making the roundtables with the regulatory framework, within the regulatory framework, to solve some kind of the problems or issues in Islamic finance industry. And then we're working hard on the raising awareness about Islamic finance. Of course, in close and fruitful cooperation with our dear colleagues, which is they are organizing this whole event. Then AIFC rules on Islamic banking, capital market, and takaful also was created. And then they keep registering and attracting these kind of organizations in Islamic banks, Islamic asset management companies, Islamic fintech, and consulting and law firms, and international training and certification in Islamic finance. So
I guess it's the same technical problem that speaker is facing. Please give us a few minutes.
nice. One more again. I hope it's the last time. Let's move on fastly. So let's move to the next slide, please. We have the cooperation with international organizations. So one of them, as I told you before, Islamic development banks. So the governor is the official representative. Then the president of the ISDB group joins the AIFC Management Council, and then the technical assistance for the ISDB to develop Islamic Finance Master Plan. So this point is very important. Master Plan, it means the roadmap for development of Islamic finance industry in in the Republic of Kazakhstan. So this document is really important, and we already finalizing it. And of course, it's what's happened with the technical assistance of the ISDB. Then we have the cooperation with the Asian Development Bank. Islamic finance favorable legal and regulatory framework was created with the support of ADB. And then okay. The regional technical assistance of the ADB, Islamic Finance for Inclusive Goals, and then the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So actually the AIX adopted listing rules of Sukuk developed with the EBRD assistance. So let's move to the next slide, please. Here is the legislation on Islamic finance. At 2017, the Islamic finance rules. So these things happened in AIFC, but at the same time, I'm covering a bit about the Islamic finance in Kazakhstan at all. So here's the rules, which is suitable for everybody who is doing business in that industry. 2017, it was Islamic finance rules. So it's to identify key policy issues in defining and formulating regulatory regime for Islamic finance. And then next things is happened over Islamic banking business prudential rules. Defines regulatory requirements for Islamic banks and Islamic businesses. Then insurance rules, Takafu and Takafu prudential rules. Defines regulatory requirements for Takafu and Takafu businesses. And then at 19 and 20, master plan for the development of Islamic finance in Kazakhstan under the technical assistance, these kind of things that I already told you before. So all AIFC acts on Islamic finance were drafted in the framework of the technical assistance of the Asian Development Bank. So in this part, I would like to move to the next slide, and then I will talk about the Islamic finance industry. So here's the capital requirements. So I will be explaining the whole Islamic finance industry now, and this slide is for you to understand how it works and what the capital requirements. So we can start with that. The Islamic finance industry has developed a wide range of Sharia-compliant financial products to ensure that they meet this specification. They make use of contracts acceptable under traditional Islamic legal doctrine, and also adopt conventional financial contracts so that they comply with the tenets of the Sharia. There are two main types of product: profit and loss sharing instruments and markup contracts. And financial certificates that are similar to bonds, which are known as a sukuk. For some instruments, there is an open discussion as to whether they are Sharia compliant. Okay, so profit and loss sharing contracts, it's called musharaka and mudaraba. So Islamic finance overall, it's not the new or totally different industry in finance. It's just first of all, it's by the Sharia compliant, so it's adopting the rules, and then they had their own names on the instruments, on the regular instruments. So the profit and loss sharing contracts, it means that we have the types of the contracts musharaka and mudaraba. So there is plenty of instruments in Islamic finance. That's why it's so comfortable to use and to do business in Islamic finance, because the range of the instruments in Islamic finance is so huge, and it covers a lot. So one of them is the musharaka and mudaraba. Islamic doctrine considers PLC contracts to be closer to the dictates of the Sharia, being based on risk participation. They are not only halal, it means Sharia compliant, but also preferably to other types of contracts. The most used contracts are those of medieval origin, mainly those involving mudaraba and musharaka. The musharaka contract was used in the Middle Ages to facilitate the joint ownership of property or of the commercial enterprises. It is a contract in which two parties agree on the capital shares that both confer to a project. Both parties are involved in the implementation and management of the project, and profits are divided according to the terms agreed in the contract. Meanwhile, losses are allocated in proportion to the capital contributed. Under a mudaraba contract, the owner of capital gives money to the applicant, right? So there is too many terminology, so I'll try to skip it to not confusing you. So and the other way, gives money to the applicant, and then who is committed to managing the amount given with the view towards making a profit. This in turn will be divided between the parties on a percentage basis, as specified in the contract. So it is a share of total income, and as such, no fixed sum. The sum operation can also be used for indirect financing. The agent who has received the capital can conclude a mudaraba contract with a third party that will then invest it in productive activities. Mudaraba contracts are commonly used for the management of mutual funds and the structuring of sukuk. The difference between the two types of contracts is that under a mudaraba contract, capital is wholly given by the bank, which also pays for losses. Whereas with the musharaka contract, both parties participate financially in the project. So it's clear. Moreover, in the former case, the management of the project is in the sole responsibility of the mudarib, while it is shared in the latter case. In addition, the assets purchased with the investment remain the property of the bank under the mudaraba contract, while their ownership is shared in the case of the musharaka contract. So in practice, the use of the musharaka contract is limited because it is by nature a long-term instrument, while most of the deposits collected by Islamic banks have a short-term maturity. So its limited diffusion is also partly due to the lack of support shown by small businesses, which are reluctant to have external interferences in their business management. Both of the tools are suitable for financing joint ventures and also for project financing. So there's also have the indirect participation or markup contracts. So it's the murabaha and ijara. So it was mudaraba and musharaka before. Now it's murabaha and ijara. It's kind of complicated to hear that because like maybe for most of you it's new at all. So I think later you'll be clear about that. So there are also forms of non-participatory financing. These do not involve any PLC. So which are most often used in practice, particularly for consumers credit and short and medium term financing. The most popular involve murabaha, sale term, and ijara, leasing contracts. Contracts of this type, which are also known as trade-based or asset-based contracts, entail a fee or a markup on the price of the goods that are bought with the fund supplied. So markups, it's the main. You can like write it down as a keyword in Islamic finance. So there is no percent, right? The percentage, the interest, that is named the markup. So that's the main difference between the regular, the conventional banking, and Islamic. So I was talking about the contracts. So in this case, the remuneration doesn't explicitly refer to the temporal dimension, and it's thus considered the compensation for commercial services in the case of murabaha contract, or for the use of a good in the case of the ijara contract. However, the cash flows generated by the contract tend, in fact, to replicate those that are typical of a conventional bank loan. These operations are also generally associated with indirect forms of collateral, such as the ownership of the goods underlying the transaction. The Murabaha contract is one of the most commonly used. Under this, one party buys an asset and sells it to the other party at a higher price, which is agreed upon conclusion of the contract and is payable at the end. The following contracts are also similar. There is a buy al-muajjal, instant sale of an asset in return for the payment of money made in full or by installments at a future date. It's a buy al-muajjal. And then buy al-salam, deferred sale of an asset with an immediate payment of the price involved. And buy al-istisna, similar to the buy al-salam contract, the previous one, but involving a different object, industrial goods that haven't yet been completed. Commodity murabaha, or the name tavarruk, is all about the commodity exchange. I think you know about that. So the commodity murabaha, the customer enters into a murabaha transaction with a bank, requesting it to purchase a particular commodity. For example, the metals. In the other common type of non-PLC contract, the ijara leasing contract, partly usually the bank purchases an item and leases it to the other party. So under Islamic law, the lease is equivalent to the sale of the right to use the good against the payment of a fee set at the time the contract is concluded and related to the way the good will be used. The seller and the buyer must agree on the markup. The object of the contract must have a real usage and the user must be able to benefit from it. So the ownership of the underlying asset remains with the bank. This bears the risk associated with lending goods for the duration of the contract. Some types of ijara contract, the leasing contract. Ijara wektina contract. Sorry for saying so many different words to you, but that's how it works. So at the same time, I'm trying to explain what's the name of this in Islamic finance. So the ijara leasing include the right to final purchase and allow for the transfer of ownership of the product. Finally, there's also financing free of charge, named Card Hassan, which is intended for individuals or companies in financial difficulties, and is merely a form of charity. So not be shocked about the free of charge. It means charity, Card Hassan. Next, we can move to the Sukuk side. So as I'm talking about that, the contracts and the tools and instruments, so we can see at the same time the capital requirements for Islamic financial organizations. So for Islamic banks, it's the 10 million. Insurance companies, it's 7 million. Islamic finance company, it's 2. And asset management broker dealer is 500K. Now we're trying hard to make it lower, but it's like one of the most suitable and attractive numbers to have. Then we can talk about the Sukuk. It's the Islamic capital market. So the accounting and auditing organization for Islamic financial institutions, what we are a part of, the AIFC, defines Sukuk as the certificates of equal value representing undivided shares related to the ownership and not debt of tangible assets, usufruct and services, or to the ownership of the assets of particular projects or a special investment activity. Extending even to contractual rights, which are held in trust for Sukuk holders. To be Sharia compliant, Sukuk must be capable of being owned and sold legally in accordance with the rules of the Sharia. In recent years, Islamic investors with a clear preference for investments that use funds consistent with their religious beliefs have increasingly subscribed to Sukuk issuances. In fact, the growing preferences for Sharia-compliant investments among Muslim populations has been a key growth driver for the global sukuk market and for Islamic finance as a whole, and has been translated into the development of fully fledged institutions such as Islamic banks, Islamic insurance operators, and Islamic fund managers. So here is like the capital requirements once again, and you can see there is like a small notice here. Capital requirements will be reduced later this year. We really hope so. Maximum it will be the next one. So we can move to the next slide, please. Here it is. So I was talking about the institutions, our partners, the cooperation, but the most important is not the words, right? So it's the actions. And based on these actions, what we did here in our territory and then within the AIFC, we have the international recognition, of course. So everybody knows the Thomson Reuters. By this honorable resource, we are #1 in Islamic finance among CIS countries. Then we are #5 in investment attractiveness among CIS countries and 18 in Islamic finance in the world. So they have like more nomination. The Global Islamic Finance Awards is the one more time, it's the honorable, of course, and recognizable awards. So in that case, our colleagues, even our governor, received these kind of awards. So one of them is for the institutional support of Islamic finance. Then it was the initiatives for the development of human capital, and individual nomination for policy development in the field of Islamic finance, and Global Islamic Finance Leadership Award. So one more thing about the awards, our colleagues in Islamic finance, one of them, it's two of them actually, it's on the list of the 50 influencers, women, I mean. At this list, two of our colleagues in that list already. So at the same time, we have the huge recognition internationally, worldwide. We can move to the next slide. Here is the context, the location of our center, and please, I'm waiting for your questions, and I will be more than happy to answer it. Alisher, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So Alibek, if you go to the chat, there's a question. So I can read it to you. In Islam finance, as far as I have heard, no interest are charged. How does banks that follow the law make money? So one of the basic questions maybe, huh?
Yeah, so that means the understandings, they're trying to get it. So as I told you before about the markups, you should be writing down because that's the main difference. And one more word for the to define the difference between the conventional, the regular banking system, the financing, and Islamic is the transparency and markup. That's it. So these two words, it's very important to keep it in your mind. How they're making the profit, it's only about the markup. As I told you before about the contracts, the buyer and seller need to be agreed on the contract on the markup. So there is no interest rate. That's how they make profit. For example, to you, I forgot the name of the questioning, the person. So the main thing is like, for example, to getting the better understanding. For example, you're getting the you're buying the house from the bank, right? So there's a loan, and bank bought it for 100K, for example. As we're talking, I was talking about the interest. There is no interest. That's why they put in markup at the same time. So they bought it for 100K and put it in markup for 20K, and you coming to them and agreeing how you're going to buy it, how you're going to pay it for that. But it's all transparent. One more word, transparency. So you can see for how much they bought it, what the markup, and how you're going to pay it. So at this process, by this contract, you will choose it by yourself, because there is like the huge range of the tools. So that's how they're making profit.
Dear participants, any other questions?
I see from do you think this system will make Islamic Bank more cautious in selecting project to fund? Pardon? What kind of system? Make Islamic Bank more cautious in selecting projects to fund? And the previous question is, will the presentation cover only AIFC Islamic finance, or will there be more about the whole concept of Islamic finance? Yeah, I hope you listened to me and I covered like the basic things, the main stuff, and about the AIFC itself. And please, Florentiana Iuono, I hope I pronounced correctly. You said the system will make Islamic Bank more cautious. Since there is no interest rate, okay, so I assume the risk will be bigger. For actually, you see, I mentioned that it's not about the risks. It's already like they counted it. So there is the range of the tools you choosing. How are you going to take it? And when I'm saying the different type of tools, it means you are choosing how you're going to do that. And these things, the interest rate itself, in that case, it's bank taking care more because they're getting the losses too, not about the profits. So for example, you're taking about the project to finance, to getting financing, right? To get the investments from the bank. In that case, you're choosing some special, like some tools, right? Mudarba, Musharaka, or whatever you wanted. So there is saying that not only the profit shares, it's also the loser shares, right? In that case, it's just the bank taking care more, and they know about the risks. So in that case, it will be a bit harder to get the investments. That's the difference. It's not the risk for the bigger bank. Will be bigger. So it's just because of their care about their own money, right? So the usual bank, the conventional banks, they're giving investments in that case, in these rules, in this contract, but it's not counting about themselves. In Islamic banks, they're as your like you're going to be as a like shareholders, right, on the same project, you and this bank. So you can say that in that case, bank will be controlling all these steps in your project or in your fund. Anything else?
So it's been almost an hour, and if there's no other questions, or if you have any other questions that will
I'm waiting.
happen later, so you can probably email Alibek. He has demonstrated his I don't know, the phone numbers and emails. So if there's no question, Alibek, thank you very much for sharing your time, for your attention and participation in our International Economics Olympiad. I think that this was a very interesting lecture, and guys are being active, asking questions. And so I can see that the topic of Islamic finance is interesting to the younger generation. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you, dear participants, for your time and attention to the topic. So stay tuned and please participate in other sessions of us. Alibek, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. You will have the presentation later, and there is the email. If you have some questions, as my colleague mentioned, you can write it down easily at any time. We will be more than happy to answer it. And I'm really glad for having me here. Thank you very much, guys. I hope